So Pop, how did you get started with insurance?
Well, when I graduated from college in Minnesota, your grandfather had plans for me to go on to law school. He felt that being a lawyer, in his words, was a license to steal. And I think he either had a bad experience with attorneys or he had a number of attorney friends that he felt that it was a pretty lucrative way to make a living. When I had bought a car in college and your mother and I had taken a trip, and I come back to Michigan where my parents were at the time, and I'd never gotten an insurance bill on it, and so I stopped in to see a guy by the name of Stan Dickinson to find out, how much I owed for the insurance. And the problem was I had a Minnesota driver's license and a car titled in Michigan, and once we got it straightened out, I came back and I said to your mother, I said, I think I got offered a job today. And 2 days later, a letter shows up from Stan, offering me a job, which as a poor college graduate with no money for law school, I kind of thought, well, I'll give it a try. And the rest has kind of been history.
So how did that turn into Harbor Brenn?
For 4 or 5 years, I reached the point where I wanted to be in business for myself, and I formed the Harbor Agency with a guy by the name of Ed Wallace. We were a very small agency with just a couple of companies that represented, and we kind of operated, well, I've always operated under a couple different principles. When I worked for Stan, he had a partner by the name of Alan McCune, and Alan told me very on in my career that he said, if you take care of the business will take care of you. And he was one of the hardest working guys. He worked 7 days a week. I mean, he just took no time off from it. So that kind of hit home, that you got to pay your dues in order to make things be successful. The other thing I kind of always have operated under the basis of is what your grandmother's philosophy was, which was God is first, others are second, and yourself is last. And so if you take that into the insurance business, you can take the knowledge that you have of the insurance contracts and put yourself in the position of the buyer and look at what that needs are for the buyer, because not all policies are the same. And if you then use your knowledge and buy that policy as if you were buying it for yourself, that's going to turn out to be the best solution for the customer. And if you take care of that customer, the business will take care of you. And that's how Harbor Agency grew. But industry changes and companies change. And we got to the point where I'm competing with larger agencies in our immediate area. And I needed more company representation. But companies, when they hire you as an agent, they need to have you sell policies for them. So you had to generate some volume, and you can do some of that, but there are other ways in which to build that volume. And one of my competitors that had a couple of companies that I did not represent, Auto Owners Insurance Company, Westfield Insurance Company, was at a point of wanting to retire. And so I went to Citizens Insurance Company, which was my lead carrier, and got them to underwrite the financing for me to buy the Brenn Agency. So I then had the Brenn Agency in Petoskey and the Harbor Agency in Harbor Springs, and we wanted to maintain the customer base, so I think it was my sister Jenny came up with the idea of calling it Harbor Brenn, duh. And so Harbor Brenn came into existence from that point on. And the bit of the growing problems we had back in those days was that with an office in Petoskey and an office in Harbor Springs, and I don't remember how many employees we initially had, 5 or 6 of us. A lot of times I would have the person that could best resolve the problem in the wrong office. And so as time went on, there became some other opportunities in the community. And I went back to Citizens again to obtain a book of business they had repossessed from them. And in doing some horse trading with them, I got them to underwrite a mortgage for me on a building, so I ended up getting rid of my Harbor office and Petoskey office and located where we are now out by La Senorita, halfway between Harbor Springs and Petoskey. My thinking there was everybody in Harbor Springs goes to Petoskey usually once a week, if not for groceries or something. So it was just convenient to meet us there. In the summer times, it's difficult to get downtown Petoskey or Harbor Springs, so we had parking and accessibility and able to grow. The other part of the equation of this Harbor Brenn growth was the fact that when I started in the business back in 1972, there were a number of people that I had worked with through the McCune-Dickinson agency over time that as Harbor Brenn grew, I was in a position to hire them away from where they were working, and so present day Harbor Brenn agency is consisting of 7 or 8 people that have been in this insurance business for 30, 40 years, and we've all at one time or another worked together at different locations and are all now under one house. So that's kind of how Harbor Brenn developed to where it's at now. And most recently was a very close friend of mine had passed away in last January, a guy by the name of Jack Walvogel, and his family had decided they were going to sell the agency. And as we sat down and talked with him, we found that there was a very strong, similar philosophy in running an agency and caring for the client. And as we got into it, many of the clients Jack had were people that we've known all our lives. And so we were able to put together a purchase of the Walvogel agency that was beneficial all the way around. It was good for the Walvogel family. It was certainly good for the Walvogel clients because we were able to add more companies to choose the products from, as well as more staff to assist in the servicing. And it was the right move for Harbor Brenn. So that's kind of how that all came about.
So Ash, how did you get started with Harbor Brenn?
I've always been there. I remember when I was 12 or 13 coming over after school from the middle school and answering the phones at the front desk so everyone could go to the pub in the afternoon. I can't quite imagine having my 12-year-old daughter coming in and doing that now, but it was certainly a learning experience. It was something I enjoyed. And I worked there most school vacations through high school, a lot of summer breaks and things like that. And started full-time after college in '98. I came home and one of the customer service reps at the agency decided she wanted to stay home with her daughter more, and Dad offered me her job, and I was able to do it. I enjoyed it. It's one of the things that I really like about how Dad brought me into the agency. I've been working in, I have worked in almost every position. So, I was a file clerk, I was a receptionist, I was personal line CSR, I've worked in commercial lines. All of the different positions within the agency, for the most part, are things that I've done. So it gives me a really good feel for how the agency works, where are the struggles, where are the challenges, where are the opportunities, and it gives me a good idea for where I want to take things in the future.
So Ash, where do you see Harbor Brenn going from here?
Well, it's interesting because the insurance industry has changed a lot since Dad started the agency back in the late 70s. The technology that's in place now and the things that they, the questions that they ask, the way they can drill down to get a pretty accurate rate for a pretty accurate risk. All of those things are more complex now than they ever were before, but the core mission is still the same. And so the challenge for me going forward is to make sure we still have the right company representation, that we have the best employees we can possibly have. I think the staff that we have right now, the knowledge that they have, the caring that they have for their clients, I would put them up against any agency in the state. They're a fantastic group of people and they really care about the job that they do. So going forward, the goal is to keep doing what we do best, strive to continue to improve and be better, and make sure that we're doing the right thing for our customers and our community. Another thing that's fairly unique with us is the longevity of our staff. We don't have a lot of turnover with our employees and coworkers. One of the things that Dad said earlier, Alan McCune said, if you take care of the business takes care of you. And one big factor of that is taking care of your employees and making sure that they are happy with their jobs, they like their jobs, they're good at what they do, they know what they need to do, they've got the knowledge that they need to have. And so we work really hard to have a good environment. You know, we're a dog-friendly office. A lot of the employees bring their dogs to work, which is certainly good for morale. We are a local agency, so we live here. You know, we know the customers when they call in, they know us. A lot of times we know what they need before they call. Oh, it's that time of year again. Got to park that car. It's not going out in the winter anymore. Those kinds of things are common, and when you have clients that you've had for a long time with employees that have been around for a long time, you build those relationships and you get to know those people, and makes it even more appealing to know that what you are doing is helping protect them from a future loss.